Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Madhava Kunja Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhav Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Jaya Radha Madhav Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Ai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Nitai Gaur Haribol, 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 Haribol. जंग विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशिष्यमात् अभय चरण अरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की इस्कॉन ब्यूटी फाउंडर आचार्य डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री प्रभुपाद की जंग विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशिष्यमात् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर श्री प्रभुपाद अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नमाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की श्री श्री गौर निताई की श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की समवेत गौर भक्त बिंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे ऑल ग्लोरी सुदास मुलिवोरिस ऑल ग्लोरी सुदास मुलिवोरिस ऑल ग्लोरी सुदास मुलिवोरिस ऑल ग्लोरीज ऑल ग्लोरीज ऑल गुरु एंड गौरांग ऑल ग्लोरीज टू श्रील प्रभुपाद. We completed up to text number 17 yesterday. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Gura Sri Juta Padakamalang Sri Gurung Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupang Sagra Jatang Sahagana Raghunatha Nitang Tang Sajivam Sadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Nitangsa Namong Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhubhaivacha Patitanang Papanebho Vaishnavebho Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyang Jagannathaya Te Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanang Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasang Tato Jaya Mudiraye नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नष्टकी. So completed up to text number 17 or 18? 17. Okay. So we start from text number 18 because 17 and 18 are closely connected. So I'll read alone text number 18, then we'll chant together text number 19. Himo nirjharo viprusmat kusumakaro vayuna chalatro balo vitopo nolini toto sampadi. The branches of the trees standing on the bank of the lake received particles of water carried by the spring air from the falls coming down from the icy mountain. In this verse, the word himo nirjhara is particularly significant. The waterfall represents a kind of liquid humor, a rasa, relationship. In the body, there are different types of humor, rasa or melo. The supreme melo relationship is called sexual melo, adiras. When this adiras or sex desire comes in contact with the spring air moved by Cupid, it becomes agitated. In other words, all these are representation of rupa, rasa, gandha, shabda, and sparsha. The wind is sparsha or touch. The waterfall is rasa or taste. The spring air, kusumkara, kusum, kusumakara is smell. All these varieties of enjoyment make life very pleasing, and thus we become captivated by material existence. Nanaranya briga brate ona anabadhe muni bratai ahutam mannate pantha jatra kokila kujitai. Nanaranya briga brate अनाबाधे मुनि व्रतई आहुतम मन्नते पंथ यत्र कोकिल कूजितई. नानारण्य मृग व्राते अनाबाधे मुनि व्रतई आहुतं मन्नते पंथ यत्र कोकिल कूजितई. Nana various Aranya forest, Mriga animals, Bhratei with groups, Anavade in the matter of non-violence, Muni Bhratei like the great sages, Ahutam as if invited, Mannate, things. Pantaha, passenger. Yatra, where. Kokila, of cuckoos. Pujitai, by the queen. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. In such an atmosphere, even the animals of the forest became non-violent and non-envious like great sages. Consequently, the animals did not attack anyone. Over and above, everything was the queen of the cuckoos. Any passenger passing along that path was invited by that atmosphere to take rest in that nice garden. So, what is the garden? Huh? Yes. Okay, let's see what Prabhupada says in the purport. A peaceful family with wife and children is compared to the peaceful atmosphere of the forest. Okay. Children are compared to non-violent animals. Sometimes, however, wives and children are called Sajanaksha Dakshu, burglars in the name of king's men. A man earns his livelihood with hard labor, but the result is that he is plundered by his wife and children, exactly as a person in a forest is attacked by some thieves and burglars who take his money. Nonetheless, in family life, the turmoil of wife and children appears to be like the cooing of the cuckoos in the garden of family life. Being invited by such an atmosphere, the person who is passing through such blissful family life desires to have his family with him at all costs. Interesting. So we are all understanding, nothing much to discuss. So peaceful family life is very attractive. In Kali Yuga, family life is not so peaceful, looks like nowadays. But here, why attraction? Because the words of the children and wives are like the cooing of the cuckoos. Very attractive. And they become very attractive. Puranjana, who is Puranjana? All the living entities, we, all of us, become attracted in that family life. Why? It's very peaceful, wonderful, charming, right? Jadrichaya agatam tatra dadarsha pramodattamam bhitte dasabhir ayantim ekaika satanayakai. While wandering here and there in that wonderful garden, King Puranjana suddenly came in contact with a very beautiful woman who was walking there without any engagement. She had 10 servants with her, and each servant had hundreds of wives accompanying him. Big entourage. The body has already been compared to a beautiful garden. What is a garden? Body. During youth, the sex impulse is awakened. And the intelligence, according to one's imagination, is prone to contact the opposite sex. In youth, a man or woman is in search of the opposite sex by intelligence or imagination, if not directly. The intelligence influences the mind, and the mind controls the 10 senses. 5 of these senses gather knowledge, and 5 work directly. Each sense has many desires to be fulfilled. This is the position of the body, and the owner of the body, Puranjana, who is within the body. So, who is that woman? Intelligence. Okay. Beautiful woman. And who is the husband? No, no. Husband is the living entity. Mind is a servant. So 10 servants means 10 senses. 5 knowledge acquiring senses and 5 working senses. Okay. And the master of all these senses is 11 security guards. In the future words, it will be said. The intelligence has 11 security guards headed by the mind. Mind and 10 senses. And there are many wives. For the wives of these security guards, the desires. Many desires. How many desires? Very good. Pancho Shirsha Hina Guptam Pratiharena Sarvata Anneswamanam Rishabham Aprabdham Kamarupinam. The woman was protected on all sides by a 5-hooded snake. This is 5 life air. In the body, there are 5 kinds of air. Unless that air is there, the soul cannot live there. So these are compared to a 5-hooded snake. She was very beautiful and young, and she appeared very anxious to find a suitable husband. Who is anxious to find a husband? Intelligence. Sunasam suditam balam sukopolam varananam samovinnasta karmabhyam vibhramtim kundala shriyam. We're going there. So very elaborately it will be discussed, okay? Don't become disturbed. The woman, description of the woman is given here. That woman, that lady. The woman's, I read the whole verse. Sunasam suditam balam sokopolam varananam samovinnasta karmabhyam vibhratim kundala shriyam. The woman's nose, teeth, and forehead were all very beautiful. Her ears were equally very beautiful and were bedecked with dazzling earrings. Purport. The body of intelligence enjoys the objects of sense gratification that cover it, such as smell, vision, and hearing. The word sunasam, beautiful nose, indicates the organ for acquiring knowledge by smell. Similarly, the mouth is the instrument for acquiring knowledge by taste. For by chewing an object and touching it with the tongue, we can understand its taste. The word sukopolam, nice forehead, indicates a clear brain capable of understanding things as they are. By intelligence, one can set things in order. The earrings set upon the 2 ears are placed there by the work of the intelligence. Thus, the ways of acquiring knowledge are described metaphorically. So, how we acquire knowledge is explained here metaphorically. To get knowledge, we have 5 knowledge acquiring senses, right? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. And by this 5 knowledge acquiring senses, we acquire knowledge through experience. Because knowledge means experience in this world. Material knowledge is through experience. What do we see, what do we hear, what do we smell, what do we taste, what do we touch? That kind of knowledge we get. That is the process of acquiring knowledge in this world. Vishanga nibim sura susranim Sayam konoko mekholam padhyam padhyam konodhyam chalantim nukurai devatam iva. The waist and hips of the woman were very beautiful. She was dressed in a yellow sari with a golden belt. While she walked, her ankle bells rang. She appeared exactly like a denizen of the heavens. So, woman is attractive, but Narad Muni is describing in a very attractive way. Just to make Puranjana, who is Puranjana here? Who is Puranjana for Narad Muni? Prachin Varishad. So that we can understand very clearly. That's why Narad Muni is elaborately describing the beauty of this world, by which we are enamored. So then, text 24, Stano Banjito Koisharo Samobritto Nirantaro Vastranteno Nikuhantim Vidodaya Gojogaminim. With the end of her sari, the woman was trying to cover her breasts, while were equally round and well placed by side. She again and again tried to cover them out of shyness, while she walked exactly like a great elephant. So here, Prabhupada is writing in the purport, these two breasts represent attachment and envy. So it's very, very deep point Prabhupada is making. And by this, we are attracted in this world. So symptoms of raga and desha, better read this purport, little long, but is very important. This explains the nature of this material world, how we are entrapped here. The symptoms of raga and desha, attachment and envy, are described in Bhagavad Gita. Indriyas arthe rago desho vyavasthito tayarna vasam agachet tauhi asya paripanthino. Attraction and repulsion for sense objects are felt by embodied beings. But one should not fall under the control of senses and sense objects because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. These representatives of attachment and envy are very much unfavorable for advancement in spiritual life. One should not be attracted by the breast of young women. The great saint Sankaracharya has described the breast of women, especially young women, as nothing but a combination of muscles and blood. And so one should not be attracted by the illusory energy of breast with nipples. They are agents of Maya meant to victimize the opposite sex. Because the breasts are equally attractive, they are described as samabritto. The sex impulse remains in an old man's heart also, even up to the point of death. To be rid of such agitation, one must be very much advanced in spiritual consciousness. Like Jamanacharya, who said, Jad abadi mama cheto Krishna padaro binde, navanava rasa dhamani udayantam rantum asit, tat abadi vatanari sangame smarmyamane, bhavati mukha vikaro sustu nishtivanam cha. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought and my lips curl with distaste. When one is spiritually advanced, he can no longer be attracted by the lumps of flesh and blood which are in the breast of young women. The word nirantaro is significant because although the breasts are situated in different locations, the action is the same. We should not make any distinction between attachment and envy. As described in Bhagavad Gita, they are both products of Rajaguna. Kamo esha krodha esha Rajaguna samudbhava. So last paragraph talks about how lust and anger can be engaged in Krishna service. The word niguhantim, trying to cover, indicates that even if one is tempted by kama, lobha, krodha, etc., they can be transfigured by Krishna consciousness. In other words, one can utilize kama for serving Krishna. Being impelled by lust, an ordinary worker will work hard day and night. Similarly, a devotee can work hard day and night to satisfy Krishna. Just as karmis are working hard to satisfy kama, krodha, a devotee should work in the same way to satisfy Krishna. Similarly, krodha, anger, can also be used in the service of Krishna when it is applied to the non-devotee demons. Hanumanji applied his anger in this way. He was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra, and he utilized his anger to set fire to the kingdom of Ravana, a non-devotee demon. The kama, lust, can be utilized to satisfy Krishna, and the krodha, anger, can be utilized to punish the demons. When both are used for Krishna's service, they lose their material significance and become spiritually important. So this is the essence, that this world is a world of lust, and Prabhupada is writing in minute details how we are attracted. And that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is very important. So here Bhagavatam does not only talk about the transcendental activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It also talks about how we are attracted in this material world and entrapped here. So both are there. Vidya, avidya. If you don't know avidya, then you cannot recognize vidya. If you don't have experience of darkness, then you cannot appreciate light. So unless we understand and realize the pathetic condition of this material world, then we cannot appreciate the transcendental nature of the spiritual world. So sex desire, sex attraction is a root of material existence. That is the essence. We should not go into details of that. But that is to be understood and recognized. Why we are here. This is the reason we are here. There is no other reason. Adi Ras has transformed into mundane Ras. That is sex desire. But in order to overcome that, we have discussed in detail yesterday, we have to experience the higher taste of Krishna consciousness. Example here is given of Jamunacharya. Jamunacharya is explaining that after experiencing the taste of Krishna consciousness, when the thought of lusty desires comes, how he reacts? How he reacts? Spit. He spits at that thought, and his lips curl in distaste or disgust. We have to check our situation. By this we can learn, even at the level of Jamunacharya, the desire for sex life comes. Because there is a wave of this material world. As long as you are in the ocean, waves will be there. As long as we are in this material world, waves of material desires will be there. But the sea beach is not affected by the waves. It's not affected. In the same way, when our mind and intelligence is completely Krishna conscious, then mind and intelligence will not be agitated by the waves of sex desire. It will be peaceful. It will come and go. And when we become more advanced, what will happen? Like Jamunacharya, as soon as thought will come, there will be a Krishna conscious reaction. What is a Krishna conscious reaction? We should spit at that thought, and our lips or face should curl in disgust or distress. But when it becomes distressful, when we experience the higher taste. If you don't experience higher taste, this will be the test. We will not spit on that thought. We will enjoy that thought. Thinking, feeling, willing, and action. That will happen. We have to stop at the level of thinking. And how it is possible? When we have higher level of Krishna consciousness. That is very, very important. And here, at the end, Prabhupada is writing in the purport, last can be engaged in Krishna's service. How? Working hard for Krishna. That's why Prabhupada has given so much importance in service. Because we are not in the mode of goodness. We cannot chant the holy name all the time, like Haridas Thakur. That's why our lusty desire cannot be controlled. How we can control our lusty desires? By working hard for Krishna. That's why Prabhupada has introduced so many services for the devotees. When you are engaged in Krishna's service, Narottam Das Thakur sings, Kam Krishna Karmarpane. How we can engage last in the service of the Lord? Krishna Karmarpane. We have to work for Krishna. Krodh Bhakta Deshijane. How we can engage anger? Those who are envious of Krishna, we can engage that. And Prabhupada is giving the example of Hanuman. He engaged his anger by burning Lanka. So in that way, Mahaprabhu also became very angry when Nityananda Prabhu was attacked by Jagai and Madhai. Arjuna also used his anger by fighting the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In that way, we can engage the anger in the service of the Lord. So let's continue the discussion. Text 25. Tam aho lolitam viro sabrido smita shovanam snigdhena pango punkhena spristo premo bhruva. Translation. Puranjana, the hero. Puranjana is a hero. We all want to become hero, no? So Puranjana, the hero, became attracted by the eyebrows and smiling face of the very beautiful girl and was immediately pierced by the arrows of her lust desires. When she smiled shyly, she looked very beautiful to Puranjana, who, although a hero, could not refrain from addressing her. Hero becomes zero. Right? So Prabhupada writes very interesting purport. Every living entity is a hero in two ways. Prabhupada is brilliant. How he is addressing the issues so nicely. When he is a victim of the illusory energy, he works as a great hero in the material world. As a great leader, politician, businessman, industrialist, etc. And his heroic activities contribute to the material advancement of civilization. One can also become a hero by being master of the senses, a Goswami. Material activities are false heroic activities, whereas restraining the senses from material engagement is great heroism. However great a hero one may be in the material world, he can be immediately conquered by the lumps of flesh and blood known as the breast of woman. In the history of material activities, there are many examples, like the Roman hero Antony, who became captivated by the beauty of Cleopatra. Similarly, a great hero in India named Bajirao became a victim of a woman during the time of Maharashtrian politics. and he was defeated. From history, we understand that formerly, politicians used to employ beautiful girls who were trained as Bishokanya. These girls had poison injected into their bodies from the beginning of their lives so that in due course of time, they would become so immune to the poison and so poisonous themselves that simply by kissing a person, they could kill him. These poisonous girls were engaged to see an enemy and will kill him with a kiss. Thus, there are many instances in human society, human history of heroes who have been curbed simply by women. Being part and parcel of Krishna, the living entity is certainly a great hero, but due to his own weakness, he becomes attracted to the material teachings. Krishna bohirmukh hoiya bhagavancha kare, nikotastha mayatare, japotiya dhare. It is said in the Prema Vibharta that when a living entity wants to enjoy material nature, he is immediately victimized by the material energy. A living entity is not forced to come into the material world. He makes his own choice, being attracted by beautiful women. Every living entity has the freedom to be attracted by material nature or to stand as a hero and resist that attraction. It is simply a question of the living entities being attracted or not being attracted. There is no question of his being forced to come into contact with material energy. One who can keep himself steady and resist the attraction of material nature is certainly a hero and deserves to be called a Goswami. Unless one is master of the senses, he cannot become a Goswami. The living entity can take one of two positions in this world. He may become a servant of his senses or he may become master of them. By becoming a servant of the senses, one becomes a great material hero, and by becoming master of the senses, he becomes a Goswami or spiritual hero. Okay. How is the purport? Good. So Prabhupada is elaborately discussing. The choice is there. Choice to become hero is a natural tendency because Krishna is the hero. So being part and parcel of Krishna, we all want to become hero. There is nothing wrong with that. But we have to make the right choice. When we make the wrong choice, we want to become material hero. And when we make the right choice, we become spiritual hero. Which hero is good? Both are good. The spiritual hero. Why it is good? Because it is permanent. That heroism will continue eternally. So real hero is that person who can control his senses. We like to control the whole world, but the problem is that we cannot control our own senses and mind. That's why to control is very good, but we have to control our senses and mind. Then we can control the whole world. Dhruva Maharaj could control the whole material creation. Whole universe was controlled by Dhruva Maharaj. Why? Because he was controlling his senses and mind completely. So, control should begin from our own body. So when we can control our mind and senses, that is the beginning of our human form of life. And to become victimized by opposite sex, that is not real human life. Let's see what happens to Puranjana. Tam iho lolitam viro sabrido smito shovanam snigdhena pango punkhena. Oh, I have already finished. Text 26. Katam kanjo pala sakshi Kasha Shikha Kuta Sati Imam Upo Purim Bhiru Kim Chikir Sashi Sangsame. My dear lotus eyed, kindly explain to me, where are you coming from? Who you are? Whose daughter you are? You appear very chaste. What is the purpose of your coming here? What are you trying to do? Please explain all these things to me. Now, Puranjana started interacting with the beautiful lady. So living entity soul is interacting with the intelligence. Okay. So Prabhupada is very beautifully explaining. Better read the purport. The first aphorism in the Vedanta Sutra is Athata Brahma Jigyasa. In the human form of life, one should put many questions to himself and to his intelligence. In the various forms of life, lower than human life, the intelligence does not go beyond the range of life's primary necessities, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Dogs, cats, and tigers are always busy trying to find something to eat or a place to sleep, trying to defend and have sexual intercourse successfully. In the human form of life, however, one should be intelligent enough to ask what he is, why he has come into the world, what his duty is, who is the supreme controller, what is the difference between dull matter and living entity, etc. There are so many questions, and the person who is actually intelligent should simply inquire about the supreme source of everything. Athata Brahma Jigyasa. A living entity is always connected with certain amount of intelligence. But in the human form of life, the living entity must inquire about his spiritual identity. This is the real human intelligence. It is said that one who is simply conscious of the body is better than an animal, even though he be in the human form. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishta matta smritiv jnanam apahanancha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. In the animal form, the living entity is completely forgetful of his relationship with God. This is called apahanam, forgetfulness. In the human form of life, however, consciousness is more greatly developed, and consequently, the human being has a chance to understand his relationship with God. In the human form, one should utilize his intelligence by asking all these questions, just as Puranjana, the living entity, is asking the unknown girl where she has come from, what her business is, why she is present, etc. These are inquiries about Atma Tattva, self-realization. The conclusion is that unless a living entity is inquisitive about self-realization, he is nothing but an animal. So asking question is a natural tendency. But when we start asking question beyond eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, then human life begins. Everybody is asking question in this world. But mainly questions are concerned about how to eat nicely, how to sleep nicely, how to defend nicely, and how to have sex life nicely. All the questions and answers are surrounded by these four activities. Right? These are primary activities, which are common both in human form and animal form. But Mahabharata explains human beings should do something extra. Otherwise, they are not really human beings. Ahara nidra bhai mohitu nangcha samannat etat pasubhi naranam dharma hi tesam adhika vishesha dharma nahina pasubhi samanam. So when human beings start doing dharma, what is the meaning of dharma? Asking question. Athata Brahma Jigyasa. Question about material activities? No. Question about Brahma. Who am I? Ami ke? Sanatana Goswami asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that people are telling that I am very learned, but I don't know who am I. Please tell me who am I? Kyano more jarata putrai? I don't know why I am suffering. These are the questions should be asked. If I don't know who am I, that is called identity crisis. The first question we should ask, who am I? That question has to be asked to start or begin our human form of life. That's why Vedanta Sutra says that is the question of a human being. Intelligence can be spiritual intelligence and it can be material intelligence, which is represented here as a beautiful girl. When it is material intelligence, when it is thinking about sense enjoyment. When a living entity is thinking about sense enjoyment only, then that intelligence is mundane intelligence. And when human being or a living entity starts thinking about spiritual life, asking spiritual questions, then it becomes spiritual intelligence. And Krishna says that that spiritual intelligence is given by me. Teshang shatata yuktanang bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam jena mam upajanti. This is buddhi yoga. The spiritual intelligence, that is bhakti. So how we can get this spiritual intelligence? Teshang satata yuktanang bhajatang priti purvakam. We have to be engaged in the service of the Lord, loving devotional service. For how long? 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day? Satata, nitya, constantly. When a living entity is constantly engaged in devotional service of the Lord, then Krishna gives spiritual intelligence. And what is the result of spiritual intelligence? He goes back to the spiritual world. That is the power of spiritual intelligence. And what is the power of material intelligence? How to enjoy the material world in the form of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Thank you very much. Time is up. Hare Krishna. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Any question or comment? Yes.
But we see many times that we are getting, we are chanting, but after chanting 5-6 years also, like I'm taking my case, I'm not getting more this one inclined to spirituality. Rather, materially, I am getting attached because of duty and work, and then family life. But so much energy I'm not able to put in spirituality because of don't know why so strong.
So attachment comes from what? Dhayate Vishayan Pungsha. Dhayate Vishayan Pungsha Sangastis Pujayate Sanga Sangjayate Kamo Kamat Patu Pujayate Pradat Bhavati Sammo Sammo Chitu Vibrama Chiti Bhangshat Buddhinasa Buddhinasat Pranasati. So attachment comes from contemplation. Right? So mind is always contemplating. Accepting, rejecting. Bhoga, tyaga. Bhoga, tyaga. That is material mind. So when mind is contemplating on sense enjoyment, it will be naturally attracted to the material energy. Right or wrong? But in order to be attracted to spiritual subject matter, in order to be attracted to Krishna, then you have to contemplate on Krishna. Right? So how to contemplate? Mind is naturally attracted to sense enjoyment. That mind has to be attracted to Krishna. How it will happen? We have to do Shravanam Kirtanam. Because living entity has done enough Sravan Kirtanam on sense enjoyment, and because of that sadhana, they have already got perfection. Spontaneous attraction. For what? Sense enjoyment. They don't have to practice. In order to be attracted by opposite sex, you don't have to practice. It's already there. As soon as you come to a certain age, attraction is there. No need of sadhana. Because Siddhi is already achieved. But for attraction for Krishna, we have not achieved that perfection. Why? Because we have not done sadhana. So we have to do sadhana. To develop attraction for Krishna, we have to do sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti theke hoy rati rudai. Attraction for Krishna will develop when we perform sadhana bhakti vigorously. You told sincerity. Sincerity is the key. Who received the mercy of Krishna? Who is sincere? What is the meaning of sincerity? Giving 100% for Krishna. That is the meaning of sincerity. 100% endeavor. That is the meaning of sincerity. Oh, I am sincere. It's not a lip service. Sincerity means giving 100% for Krishna. And who gives 100% for Krishna? He received the mercy of Krishna. He is a qualified person. So root is that in order to develop attraction for Krishna, we have to hear and chant about Krishna in the association of devotees. More we do that, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. More we hear and chant about Krishna, more Smaranam will happen. But if we don't hear, if we don't chant, we should not think automatically one day in the morning Smaranam will start. It will never happen. Life after life, it will not happen. Unless and until we have to, unless and until we develop that attraction through the process of hearing and chanting. So that's the key. So in order to develop contemplation, in order to develop attraction, we have to spend time, quality time. So Vasudeva Katharuchi. We have to hear attentively, not out of duty. Intensity of hearing has to be there. When we hear very intensely, then we develop the tendency to chant, and then accordingly we develop the attraction or attachment for Krishna gradually. Hare Krishna. Okay. Any question online? Who is checking online?
No question, Prabhuji, as of now.
Today things are very clear, looks like.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, the 9 gates is the body, right, Prabhu? That 9 gates. So
9 gates I already explained. Beautiful golden gates.
It's okay, Prabhu. But what is that lady represents in that body? The Puranjan
Intelligence. Intelligence. Lady is the intelligence. Not lady, beautiful lady. Not ugly lady, beautiful lady. Attractive lady. Super attractive, like a denizen of heaven. That is explained in Bhagavatam.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Yes, sir. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
In text 23, the dressing and beauty of the lady is described. So how can I relate the same with the intelligence?
What?
In verse 23, the beauty and dressing of the lady is described. But lady's intelligence. So how can we relate?
Intelligence is also compared like a body. Just like city is also a body. So intelligence also, it will explain how the intelligence is also a body. It's a metaphor, no? So trying to explain the deep philosophy through that. So intelligence is also compared to a body. Another body. Beautiful body. Okay.
Okay.
Because it's a girl, no? So it means body. So it's a girl body. So that's why intelligence represents a body also. Anything else?
Like Krishna is giving intelligence. So what we are getting, what we have naturally desired, that is it the same thing is coming in intelligence, or is it like intelligence is separate from desire? Is it desire and intelligence? How?
Desire, intelligence. The mind is the storehouse of desires. Sense objects, above sense objects are the senses, above the senses is the mind, above the mind is intelligence, and above intelligence is spirit soul. There are different levels. If it is in that order, then everything is wonderful. But in this material world, who is the controller? Mind. But who should be the controller? Intelligence. When intelligence becomes the control of the mind, then you become a Goswami. And when mind becomes the controller of the intelligence, you become a Godas. So how controllership changes? Because of the power. When mind becomes very powerful, he becomes a controller. When intelligence becomes powerful, he becomes a controller. So now living entity has to decide which one he wants to make powerful. When you are indulging in sense enjoyment, mind will become powerful. And when you are involved in spiritual life, intelligence will be powerful. It's a choice we have. Okay? Not okay.
But intelligence is given by Krishna. Like
Yeah, spiritual
soul.
intelligence is given, material intelligence also, both. But spiritual intelligence is given by him directly, and material intelligence is given through material nature. Yeah. Not clear till now. He's telling this to satisfy all of us. Okay. So we'll end here. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. Bol. Huh?